That's right. With that cicada we saw last match, it certainly seemed like the team was setting up for a cap battle. And then we saw at the very beginning of the match, they made a run towards Epsilon and found out the entire enemy team was also headed that way. And before you knew it, it was back into a brawl instead of a cap battle. And that cicada really, unfortunately, was not much help. But we'll see if they can. This team can make it work.
We've got very heavy DACA over here on the, I believe this is the Hell's Horses side. No, yep, and there we got our Shadow Cat. Let's see what the build is. 2 large pulse lasers, ER small lasers, LRM 15. And the timer is going. Here we go. Both teams opting for a spread lance position. It looks like a majority of the mechs here for the TheKongLords are actually over in the Alpha Lance. Their Kodiaks, their big guys are up there, so they are not opting to take that D4 position.
Yeah, and those Timberwolves are dual Gauss, dual PPC Timberwolves as well.
I kind of had a feeling seeing those dual Enforcer 4Rs out on the field that we were going to see a little bit more of a Pokédeck. 3 large laser, 2 medium laser for them, so
Yep.
it's going to be a very
Definitely a
slow
Pokédeck.
burn. So here's the question. They're opting to take a very standoffy deck. They have Gamma. They're overwatching Theta. Is Hell's Horses going to go for the 3 cap and try and maintain it, or are they going to try and just get into the Poke war against KongLords? We will have to see.
And here's an
DACA versus
interesting bit.
Poke.
That Hell's Horses DACA deck also has a Party Crow. So that's obviously just a pure brawl deck there.
So we do have Hell's Horses heading over towards the Epsilon side, and they are taking some pretty decent crossfire here from that range deck. They're just exposing themselves unnecessarily
Yeah,
to
not sure exactly why they're moving across
KongLords.
the upper here.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of damage that was dealt, but it's still unnecessary damage to take. And so it looks like they're going to aggressively push up past the Epsilon. They're not even really caring about the cap, but they're trying to
Here
get
they go,
into the
drop it down a
D4.
little bit. That's the smart move. They need to go down
Yep.
on the middle level if they're trying to move without having range.
I agree. So they have dropped down to avoid some of that incoming fire, and I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to move up into the D4 region to get this angle on the KongLords. I think this is a good maneuver. Let's see whether or not their DACA is able to lay down some of this fire. The first one up is going to be Teois. Can he get some of this fire down? Lots of exposed mechs, but if he goes up there this aggressively alone, he's going to get slammed.
Oh,
and
he
he
did get
does.
slammed and pulled back.
He does get
Not a
out
good move.
fine, but 72% he's down to. Really needed the rest of his team there, but we're playing conga line right now. That's not a very good choice. Every single mech that's going up here is letting off an Alpha Strike and then taking a massive
And we
return
just
fire.
saw some LRMs flying out of this Stormcrow for Hell's Horses. It is
What?
a Party Crow, and you know what? I misread it. A Party Crow with 2 LRM 15s hiding out there.
What?
Not quite as much of a party as we might have hoped for.
So while this is happening, KongLords has sent their light mechs out to Epsilon, and they are back capping them, so they are going to have a severe cap advantage here. Not only that, but they capped Epsilon, which is very close to the Hell's Horses side here. Hell's Horses not looking really good here. They're taking a ton
No,
of damage.
they're in a poor
They're
position.
not tossing it back. Commander Hera back the lowest at 70%, 67% for the KongLords.
Yeah, and look at Taoist and his Kodiak just walking across on his own. Now the rest of the team comes across too. You just can't provide a
These
firing line
LRMs
and
are just
only one
not
mech to shoot at.
landing. Are they Artemis? Tell me they're Artemis. They're not even Artemis, so he can't even blind fire those LRMs.
Yeah, that's tough.
He's getting like locks for a second, and then they're just landing harmlessly in front of the KongLords. So the amount of damage that they've taken on just traversing, and here we got the lights pressuring him from the side here. Just not looking good for Hell's Horses so far.
No,
The
not
timing,
at all.
the timing has really been off. I think they could have done a lot more, but let's see if they can maybe start getting just driving LRMs into the wall.
And here comes this strike right on the corner. Oh, but it was an arty. Thank goodness. An airstrike would have been devastating right there.
So they are all hiding behind a single rock. They do have the 3 cap, so now they're finally going to get Epsilon back here. So they are going to start flipping some caps here, but Hell's Horse is just basically taking some big hits.
Yeah, so much damage, not nearly enough return fire. There's one badly damaged mech for the KongLords.
Oh, good strike kill.
The strike
Boogeyman
kill
into
on the
Carowin's
Heaven
Keep.
Jaguar.
Well-placed
We have,
airstrike right there.
Both Kodiaks at 30%.
That was
just
this guy right here. Perfect.
Yeah, this is tough. This is real tough.
So not looking good for Hell's Horses. They just they didn't come into this with a plan, or if they did come into it with a plan, that all fell apart really quick against this range deck. They're on the ground level. They can't put pressure up top in any meaningful fashion. They exposed themselves way too much on the traversal, just the approach, taking massive amounts of damage. And then the conga line, just allowing them to just completely alpha strike one after the other. And this is going to be a stop.
They did manage to get a kill on that enforcer that fell down in the ground. Maybe got a little over eager, but this is just cleanup at this point.
Yeah, this is a very slow death. Unless they can start putting out some amazing shots here, this is a very slow death for the Hell's Horses.
And the Stormcrow did go down, and it looks like this is going to be pretty ugly.
And that's it. The Firehorse in the Black Widow, the last one alive at 41%. Very clean kill by the KongLords. Very good job putting their shots on target when it mattered most, especially during the conga line and during the approaches. That was all a massive amount of unnecessary damage that Hell's Horses took. Finally getting into the range I think they wanted to be on, but being at 60% each at that point, not a good way to
and look
enter
at
that
the
brawl.
damage out of those Kodiaks. That's the highest I think we've seen so far tonight. 792 damage and 780 damage out of the two Kodiak 3s.
I'm wondering if they were running out of ammo.
Amount of damage.
That is a massive. That is definitely the highest damage we've seen so far tonight.
In
Funny thing,
that match, that is huge.
Judebot in the Oxide basically playing the cap game the entire time, just doing his job, holding down the corners. Yeah. Obviously, with those SRMs, not allowing himself to get in too close to take any return fire. But even with 0 damage, he was playing a role. But the damage is definitely in favor of Kong, and it was mostly because of that transition. So, my advice to Hell's Horses, get down if you're going to do some approach. Have a better idea of how you can approach that position, because going up on the left, honestly, the easier approach to that would have been going up and over, dropping into the pit, and then coming back up the other side, like going through Theta and hitting him from there. Going to D4, we said it was a good idea initially, and it can work. Having guys in D4 to basically take away that angle.
Deck, sure,
if you're a ranged deck, but they had LRMs, man, they're ranged. So I mean, it could have worked. I guess it could have worked if you kind of stopped and traded there, if they had the mechs to complement that. Knowing that they didn't have the mechs to complement that, especially now after seeing what they did, definitely would have said go through Theta, or don't pressure them, stay down and play the 3-cap game. Like, why
either play the 3-cap or play aggressive, but they did what they couldn't do, which was they didn't play a hard cap and they didn't play a range, and that's tough.
I mean, if they're not in a range deck, they can at least keep their heads down and maybe force Kong to come out of their hiding spot, maybe get them up onto Theta, make them go up into one of the sides and play the 3-cap, use those caps to your advantage. You got mechs that can do it, especially with the Shadow Cat. That gives even more of an advantage in terms of speed to play the cap game.
Absolutely.
Instead, they basically offered themselves up to Kong, said, take my armor, and Kong said, thank you. And that was the end of that one.
Those Kodiaks really took their armor.
Absolutely. Wow. That was a donation to the Bear God. So, well played by Kong. Very good positioning, and especially taking advantage of any mistakes that Hell's Horses made. The conga line, I saw at least 4 mechs hitting every single mech as they went up and over one at a time. Yep, 4 mechs hitting that guy at the very least, dealing significant amounts of damage. That was a very good focus fire by Kong. Good positioning. Very good heads-up play. So Kong takes it in very impressive fashion. And we will be heading into the last drop of the day, which should be an exciting one. Stick around. Knight's Scorn versus 228 Blackwatch. This is the second time we've seen Knight's Scorn now. This should be a good one to watch, though. See if they learn anything from their first matchup. And we will be back after the break in 15 minutes. We'll see you guys there.